Have you bought a DTF printer and you have issues that come up and you don't know how to fix it? You don't know what to look for. There aren't really a whole lot of videos out there on the problems and how to fix them. Then this is the video for you. Hi, my name is Sarah and I'm the owner of Sarah's Creative Boutique. I, not even a year ago, bought a Procolored DTF printer, the L1800, and throughout this journey I've had problems come up and I've had to troubleshoot all on my own because there really isn't a lot of videos. So I wanted to make my own, kind of going through some of the things that I've had problems with that I was able to fix and how I fixed them, so that if you have this problem, you can solve it too. So if you are interested in learning how to fix those problems you may be having, then please keep on watching. I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel to see more content like this in the future, and give the video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and we'll go ahead and get straight into the video. The first thing that I want to touch on is you always want to keep your machine on. Like, do not turn the machine off for long periods of time. I mean, if you had to turn it off for like an hour or two, but like, don't turn your machine off. Keep it on all the time. Ever since I got it, it has always been on, because when it's on, every so often you'll kind of hear it make a noise, and that is it mixing the inks up for you. It filters the ink somehow in there. There's little tubes in there. You do not want to turn it off, especially for the white ink. Like, it's making a noise right now and that's what it's doing. The white ink can clog very easily, and so you don't want to turn your machine off, because if it clogs too much, it can damage things inside, and you don't want that to be an issue. When I first got the machine, I had no idea that you were supposed to filter the ink and stuff like that. That's something I learned, is you never want to turn the machine off. It needs to always be on. I actually had somebody comment that on another video that I have, so I wanted to touch on that and talk about that first. That's the number one rule. Do not turn your machine off for long periods of time. The second thing that I want to talk about is you always want to run the machine at least once a day. So I'm not the best at this, but I'm going to show you the process that I do to run the machine and kind of get the white ink initialized and started every single day. Even if you're not going to be printing anything out, you can do a head cleaning, and you also print the test strip out to make sure all of your inks are coming out properly, that they are working correctly. And so I do that every single day. I'm going to show you actually how I do that. I need to do that every single day. Like I said, I'm not the best at doing it every single day, but you want to do that because all of the colored ink does really good for me. Like, I don't have to really do any maintenance on it, but the white especially, I have to stir it every single day and then kind of pull some of that ink out of the tube, and then I just put it back into the container. I don't waste any of that ink, but you want to do that just so that the white ink doesn't separate, because the other colors don't do this, but the white will actually separate from the ink somehow. Like, the ink will kind of get milky looking, and you'll have to stir it to get it to combine itself back together. And in the little cartridge that it sits in, it will get really opaque looking, and you'll know you need to pull some of that out and mix it up. So that's the number two thing that I want to talk about, is you need to do a daily head cleaning and mixing of the white ink. I don't do that with any of the other colors. I just do it with the white, and I'll go ahead and show you how I do that now and what I use. On the printer, this is where the ink containers are held. So here's all the colors, and then the white is at the very end, and you just I always keep this closed, but then the little cartridges are actually over here. And so I'll show you right now. Mine are actually pretty opaque looking because I haven't filtered it out today. And so this is where the white ink goes, and then this is where you'll be able to tell. It's kind of hard to see with the lighting, but you'll do this to both containers, the little cartridges. You'll do that. You'll suck the ink out of them, and then, well, if I can get this thing to cooperate and go back on there. There we go. And then you'll just put them back into this container. Like I said, I don't waste any of that ink. So I just do that, and I use just a generic craft popsicle stick to mix the ink, and then I used to use a big one I wanted to show you guys, but this one busted because I pulled it too tight. But I just use a syringe looking thing, and this comes with the bundle that I got, a bunch of these little orange things. And so I use that and I suck out of this cartridge the ink back up, and then I'll just put it back in here. So I do that with both cartridges actually, and I do that. That's the process that I use every single day to make sure that white ink is flowing properly. So I just take this popsicle stick and I just put it in, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So when I pull it out, notice how it's opaque looking and the end is really thick. That's what you don't want. You want to mix all of that together so that it's all a solid color, because you can't even tell that this was dipped in the white. So this is what I'm talking about, how it gets clogged. So that's why I will stir it. I don't stir for a super long amount of time, but I just kind of stir it up to make sure I'm getting all of it incorporated, and anything at the bottom. And even if you don't get it 100%, when you use that little syringe, it will pull it through anyways, and it'll still be okay. I try to get it as good as I can and just kind of mix all the way in. You don't want to just do it at the front. You want to kind of just do it all around. And then if you notice, now the stick actually has more white on it, and you can see it. So I'm going to throw this away and then show you the syringe part. I'm going to shut the lid for a second, pull this up, and put aside that broken one. Then I'm going to grab this. You put this in there, and then I always kind of move it where the bubbles are at, where you're going to pull the syringe. Fill the syringe up. And then if I've not done it for a couple days, I will actually do about 3 of these. Normally, if I've done it every single day, then I'll just do 1. But because I haven't done it in a couple days, I really want to make sure I get the ink pulled through really good. So I just repeat that step. And like I said, I always put it back in the container because this is still good ink and I don't want to waste it. So I'm not going to just dump it out. I'm going to use it. So I've done this one. And then I will just do the same process for the other one. Now that I've done that, I go over here and I will do the head cleaning. So you'll just go to your printer preferences, maintenance, and then you'll hit this little button where it says head cleaning, and you start that process, and it will run through the ink, and this thing will also move back and forth and everything, and then it'll end up printing the test strip out. So I'm going to let it do that. Now that it's through that whole process, now it's going to print that test piece that I told you about. So you just hit print and then print again. So this is what it looks like, and it actually looks really good. So I'm not gonna have to print it again, but sometimes it won't and there'll be empty squares and things. It looks really good though. All the colors are really bright, and that white would not look like that if I hadn't have pulled the ink through. So I just usually push this through and then I'll just cut that off. But you want to do that every single day. Then you'll just hit finish here, or if the lines don't come out good, you'll hit clean and it'll do the whole process again. But I'm gonna go ahead and just hit finish and okay. So that's all done. By doing what I just showed you, it also helps the white to be darker on the back. So this is an old print that messed up, but if you see, it's not really got a whole lot of white on the back of it. And on this side, there isn't even any white. So that's what can happen if you don't regularly check your white ink and regularly run it. So that's how you fix that problem, is you run the printer every single day. The next problem that can happen is for kind of like sparse little black lines to start showing up on your prints. And that can happen when your actual printing like lens that goes over the film is dirty. So I'll show you up close, but I'm going to show you what I use to clean it first. I don't clean this all the time. I usually do once or twice a month. I'll clean under that because the ink can get dried up and then it can get caked on there. And if you don't clean it, it can start making lines on your prints. So when you order your printer, you'll get this protective solution. It's kind of like rubbing alcohol, I'm pretty sure, but it's the solution that comes with it. And then they give you these little cotton swab type things, but they're on this stick. And so I'll usually dip this into the solution and then clean around that little lens, and that will solve any sparse lines getting on your prints or anything like that. And it can also sometimes cause an error to happen, and it'll tell you like your ink is low and things because it won't print it out right. And so that's what I use to solve that problem. So I'll show you where exactly I'm talking about that you need to clean. So what I did to be able to show you how to do this is you hold this button down for just a few seconds and this will start moving, and as soon as it moves this way you can actually move, and then you turn your machine off. So then you'll pull this. This is the only time you can move that, is whenever you hold this button a few seconds and it shifts itself over, you turn the machine off, and then you can move this piece. And so this is the part that I'm talking about. Under these cartridges, there's a little thing under here that's an actual, it kind of almost looks like a lens. You'll be able to clean it through this little opening, but that little metal piece right there, you clean around it with that cotton swab with the solution on it, and that is how you clean that. And this little ink pad here, you also clean. You will clean all of that with the solution, and this little piece here flips up and down as it prints, and you will also clean that. So all of that gets cleaned at least twice a month. I mean, you can clean it more, but I usually just clean it twice a month. And you'll also clean these little bars. They get some of this black on it, so you'll want to clean that as well. But you will clean all of those just as a precautionary so ink doesn't get built up, because it'll dry on here and then it'll get caked up, and it can also affect your ink pad life. And that's another thing I'm going to be talking about, but it can affect your ink pad, so you also want to do that for that reason. Another issue that can pop up is you will get a flashing light that sends an error message onto your computer that tells you your waste ink pad life is over or something like that. It basically says your waste ink pad is no longer able to be used. This happened to me and I had no idea what to do. I also didn't have a spare ink pad, and I had a massive order for me to do, and so I was on a time crunch and needed to fix it. And there's really not a whole lot of videos. There was one video in particular that my mom helped me find, and that's what helped me to be able to figure it out. Otherwise, if we wouldn't have found that video, I don't know what I would have done. But it talks about that ink pad that I showed you, and there's a way to reset the counter on it, especially if you haven't had that ink pad very long. Like, I knew the ink pad wasn't damaged. I looked at it, cleaned it, like nothing was wrong with it. So there's a way to reset the counter on it and to fix that problem. So I'll show you the buttons that it's flashed for me, so if they flash for you, you know what that means. And then I'll show you how you can reset it and continue to be able to use your printer, because after I reset it, everything went back to normal and I didn't have any more problems with it. So I'll go ahead and show you how to troubleshoot and fix that issue. The buttons it flashed were these two. It simultaneously started flashing those two, and then it ended up, obviously because I don't have an error, it's not going to pop up, but kind of in the corner of my computer it popped up an error problem. So when you get your printer, you get sent two little flash drive things that have stuff on it. So I'll show you. You go here and then you'll go to where the flash drive is at on your computer, and I just have mine saved under DTF. and then you'll go to this maintenance and solution. So it pops up all this stuff, and it's got the different types of printers and their specific code. I have the L1800, so that's what mine's under. Then you double click it, double click again, and there's actually a PowerPoint that walks you through how to do that. And there's this resetter. So this is what you'll click, and you'll have to install this onto your computer. I'm not going to reinstall it, but I'll show you the PowerPoint that shows kind of what pops up. But this is what you'll install. And a problem that did occur with mine, if you have a like firewall thing protecting your computer, you'll have to go into that system and let it allow this program to be installed. Otherwise, it'll put basically like a firewall up and won't let you into it. So you'll have to do that. But I'll go ahead and pull this PowerPoint up and show you exactly the steps of how you reset it. This is what will pop up, and then it goes through a whole list of how you do it. And then this is what will pop up once you actually get the program installed, and you'll have to agree to the software license agreement. And then this will pop up, and it will have your printer model up here. So that's where it would say like the L1800 or whichever one you have. And then you'll go down on there and click maintenance, and you'll hit this waste ink pad counter. And then this is where you'll need to set this to 0. So you'll be putting in 0 and 0 on these, and you'll hit the initialization, and you'll confirm all of that. And then it'll tell you to turn your printer off, turn it on. It prompts you to do all of that. Then it basically restarts the printer and activates it to where it's at 0 again, and your printer will work just fine. Your ink pad will work, and you won't have any more issues. There are, in case of that your ink pad is actually damaged, there are on Amazon different waste ink pads that you can buy that are compatible with the printer, and you can get a new one if you had to. They're like between $30-$40 around in there, and so you can get a new one. But that saves you, like I knew I hadn't had it a year, and like I said, there was no damage to it. So being able to reset it is a game changer and reduces a lot of stress. So if you have that happen, try that first. And obviously if that doesn't work, then you may need to get a new ink pad. But that's how you troubleshoot and reset the counter for your waste ink pad. A key thing that I noticed that I was forgetting to check is in the back, you'll have a tube that goes out into a little container, and it catches all the waste ink that's pushed out of the machine when it prints. So if you don't change that routinely, that can overflow. Thank goodness mine never did that, but I'll show you what it looks like. You always want to make sure you're checking that regularly. Like you don't have to change it every day, but you want to change it once it starts getting full so that it doesn't overflow and get anywhere. That is something that you don't want to forget to change, and it filters itself, so you don't have to do anything with it, but that's just something that's part of the maintenance that you need to do to make sure that you don't make a mess everywhere and that it doesn't get on any of your stuff or your printer. So I'll show you the little waste ink container in the back so you know what I'm talking about. Back here is where it is. This is the container. Usually actually around this time is when I will dump mine out. So I have some cotton pads in there. You can also use paper towels, but I prefer the cotton pads they provide you with. So they look like this. They just come in this little package, and then you can put them in there and it sucks the ink up, but it's just a little cloth looking thing. I usually stick 2 in there at a time, and then it will drain back here, and then once it starts getting full, you'll go ahead and dump that out. And I just use a blue cup and put it in there and then throw it away. Well, I spray it out with really hot soapy water. I pour a majority of it in a cup, then I will spray it and everything, and then that leftover ink I'll put down the drain, and it's no big deal. I just don't pour all of that. I just kind of dump that out and then clean it. And then whatever's left over goes down the drain. But that is definitely important to make sure you keep an eye on that and dump it when you need to. The last troubleshooting problem that I'm going to talk about in today's video is one that I also found through a YouTube video. There was like only 1 or 2 YouTube videos about this. I found out that my printer was doing really good at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, I have some test prints to show you. I started getting lines at the very top of my images. So it would print, it would would put these lines at the top and then the rest of the image would be great, but it would mess up the top part of my print. So I was having multiple prints coming out wrong. And the lines I'm talking about is, if you can tell, you can see where there's these little lines. And so right where this brown part is and kind of the color is different. And also on this one, if I turn it around, you can see where it's messed up. And there are some lines. It's kind of hard to tell because it keeps reflecting off of it weird, but there's little lines, and so you do not want that. And the way you fix that is actually to put a color line at top of all of your prints. So it doesn't have to be big. I just do a thin strip, and I'll show you actually on the computer, but it's just a color line, and it prints out first and then prints out your print, and that solved that problem for me. So if you start getting lines in your design, that's how you can fix it. It made this super easy for me. I just use this every single time, and I'm already printing, so it's not a big deal. That obviously will get cut off of your print and you just throw it away. So I'll go ahead and show you on the computer what I'm talking about, what it looks like. This is what I'm talking about. It literally just has black, yellow, pink, blue, and it's nothing fancy. It's literally just super small. It's at the top of the image. This is the program for the printer, so it's just at the top, and then I'll put whatever I'm printing out below it so that that prints out first, and then it makes every single print come out perfect. I thought that was the last tip I wanted to share, but there's actually one more. Whenever you print out your prints, obviously the ink is going to be wet, and so you want to cure your images. Every single print that you print out, you want it to be cured before you put it on a shirt, coat, coaster, whatever you're putting it on. You want it to be cured. So this was my very first test thing, and I didn't know yet that they absolutely had to be cured. So I printed it out, and everything's fine. But as soon as I touched it on accident, as soon as I picked it up from a shirt, it smeared and it messed up the print. So that's what will happen. And also that ink will get onto the shirt the wrong way, and it's just a bad situation. So you will want to cure your image. So that means you will put a powder on it. It's a DTF curing powder, and you'll want to put it in your heat oven. And I do 150 degrees for 200 seconds, and that is the perfect amount. It makes every print come out great. That's what you want to do to solve that problem as well. Like if you print it out and you're trying to put it on a shirt and you're like, why is the image smearing? Because you haven't cured it. So you want to make sure and cure every single image, and it just makes them turn out great. And that curing powder also has something in it that just helps it adhere to your image, adhere to your blank that you're putting it on. So you want to make sure to do that to all the prints, and it will make them all look great. But that's kind of the basics of some troubleshooting and some problems that I ran into and how to fix them. So I hope you enjoyed me discussing all of them. If you have any further questions or something you'd like me to touch on or make a part 2, you can leave your questions down below, and I can certainly make a part 2 if I know how to solve problems that you may have. Actually, on your flash drive do have a thing that has some common issues, and it'll kind of walk you through it, but there's not really necessarily, I think now there's more coming out on how to fix problems that you may have. But I wanted to just make this video to help people that may still have questions. I've been getting a lot of comments on my unboxing video of different things that people are curious about, so I just thought I'd make one big video to kind of discuss all of those things in. So like I said, if you have any extra questions, you can leave them down below, and I'd be glad to make a part 2 if there's enough questions, or I will just comment back to you down below. All of these things that I talked about, me finding out how to fix them was great, and it's helped me be able to maintain my machine without having any problems. So if you have any questions or any new video ideas that you'd like to see or things you'd like me to talk about, I'd love to hear them, and you can comment them down below. Please give the video a like if you enjoyed watching it, and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you guys in the next video.